Ireland below par again, but they did enough to clinch the title. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. And speaking about, being below par, I'm feeling it myself at the moment. There's just something here in my throat that I know is going to, have me probably laid up a little bit tomorrow, but what can you do? But, we'll get through this one. We've got England, France to come later, and then I've also still got to record the Wales-Italy one. But for now, hopefully the voice holds up. So this game, Ireland, they lose Keenan in the warm-up. Larmour has to come in at full back. Thought he had a fairly, solid game, not spectacular, but did a decent job there. I don't think it was the conditions really for his dancing feet to take full advantage of. But again, he was fairly decent. But Ireland under pressure early on. Lowe's clearance kick charged down by Christie, who had a fairly effective game in defence, I felt, for Scotland, and it goes out about 5 metres from Ireland's own line. Then Ireland get free kicked at the line out. Scotland in a decent position, but then Ferguson stripped by McCarthy, who then gives a nice offload and Ireland can clear. And what a big play from McCarthy there as well. Scotland looking like they were potentially going to get over very early on for a try, and that could have completely changed the momentum of the game if Ireland had conceded a try so early on, and Scotland feeling like they could get at the Irish defence then. But Ireland do fall behind. Lowe is pinged for crawling along the ground. Russell opens the scoring, is 3-0. Ireland then start to apply some pressure themselves, force a penalty for offside. They go to the corner. Then Sheehan comes on a bit of a loop, and he almost gets over. Scotland thought did really well to force him into touch, and then they have now a 5 metre defensive line out. Turner, his throw a little too high. I think, who was it? Was it Cummings maybe? Almost got his fingertips to it, but goes over the top, lands in the breadbasket for Sheehan, who can then just stroll over to score. Converted by Crowley is 7-3 to Ireland, and a real gift from Scotland there. Joe McCarthy then, he's offside, and Russell steps up again, makes it 7-6. Ireland beginning to probe, but not really finding that many gaps, and it's pretty hard going for them. Scotland's defence, I thought, for most of the game was really good. Stafford McDowell then with a great run, holds off Bunyaki at the start of it, and then gets into some really good space, gets Scotland on the front foot, but ends up coming to nothing. And it's really cagey in the game at this stage. One score games, big rewards on the line for both teams. The Triple Crown for Scotland, the entire championship for Ireland as well. Ireland then win the first scrum penalty of the game. Furlong popping Schumann out of the front row. And the scrum went pretty well for Ireland today. Line out, not so much. And Scotland probably feel a little bit aggrieved about the some of the scrum penalties they conceded, but I think on the balance Ireland had the better scrum, and probably Scotland had the better line out. I think Scotland then pinged for crossing around the halfway line, and Crowley calls for the tee. His kick though drifts left and wide, never really threatened the post at all, if we're honest. Halftime score then is 7-6, really tight. Scotland frustrating Ireland in a similar way to the way England did last week, but the intensity isn't there compared to that England performance, and also the threat in attack isn't quite as much, which is Scotland. Generally, we look at them, we think the attack is the part that really shines through. But against Ireland, they have struggled over the last few years to actually get that working. Into the second half then, Ireland with a bit of go forward. Lowe with a great run, holding off attempted tackles close to the touchline, finds a key. Ireland then go through some phases before forcing a penalty. Crowley pops it over from in front of the post, and it's 10-6. A slight bit of breathing room for Ireland, but obviously if it's not a full score, you're still nervous. I was certainly still nervous the whole bloody game. Ireland, though, beginning to play noticeably quicker. They work close to the line, and great burst by Bundy Aki. The ball then breaks for Van der Merwe, but Ireland had penalty advantage, heart to mouth time there, thinking he's going to go the length of the pitch and score. Ireland then, from the penalty, tap it, and they work it to Furlong, who makes it close to the line, and looks like he might have scored. On-field decision, though, was no try. You can see the ball is squirted out, so something has happened, certainly. We go to the TMO, who confirms the on-field decision. Maybe it's green tinted glasses from me, so those of you who aren't Irish especially, let me know what you thought. But I thought, first of all, it looked like he still had control of the ball by the time it's grounded, and then the ball squirts backwards. So I don't know where the losing it forward comes from. Maybe you could make the argument that is the fact that when his arm is coming down, the ball is still connected to it, but he's not necessarily in control of the ball when he's putting it down. So I could see where the team might say that that's the action of the ball being lost forward, rather than after after it hits the ground and then goes backwards. So again, could just be green tinted glasses, but I've certainly seen those ones given as tries previously. But we move on. So it feels like there's another Ireland score coming, but they were always kind of on the cusp of that for a lot of the game, and the accuracy wasn't there for them last week. Last week I think is different compared to this, because last week they didn't create as many clear-cut chances as they did against Scotland either. But here I think the accuracy is more, not as under as much pressure in terms of just line speed, but the accuracy was still lacking this week, and they have a few more chances to get over. Henshaw does well, hangs on to a ball that was kind of just fired on him, and then Ireland spin it out to Nash. He does a step back inside that just beat 4 defenders. I think he's definitely going to go over, but then he's stopped just short of the line before knocking the ball on. There's a penalty to Ireland then, Scotland offside, and it was basically like, it was one of these ones where the ball's kind of bobbling around. It hits a Scottish player's foot, goes forward, and then there's another Scottish player in the way, so he's offside. It's just an unlucky kind of thing. It wasn't bad play certainly on the players, the offside players' part, but still penalty. Crowley then just about makes touch, but he puts Ireland in a great position. Then Ireland besieging that line, they're winning penalties, and you feel like something's got to give at this stage. Ireland go back to the corner, they're picking and going, they're getting close, then they go wide, but Ringrose knocks on, and then scrum to Scotland, and they have survived. Then Scotland win a penalty at that scrum, and could be a really big moment in the game then if Scotland go on to win it. That it felt like that was where Ireland had sucked into defence, and all they had to do was put it through the hands and use the space that was there, but they weren't able to. Scotland then on attack, looking to profit from a Larmour knock on, but just as advantage is called over, they spill the ball. Ringrose then breaks down the wing. Van der Merwe does well to cut him off, but Ireland are able to recycle. You have great hands then from some of the forwards, and that allows Gibson Park to break. He's stopped just short in the shadow of the post. We then have a Timo check as Henshaw gets over the line, but it's great defence by Redpath to hold him up. Absolutely no try in that one. There's no doubt in my mind about that one. Just amazing defence from Redpath there to stop what looked like it was going to be a certain try. Ashman then goes to the bin, and for his part in one of the penalties in the build up to that. Peter O'Mahony also goes off at this stage. Possibly the last time in an Ireland shirt, and what an amazing player he's been down through the years. He's going to be a difficult player to replace, in not just in terms of on the field, but also in the group of those players as well. You can see like it means a lot to him, and he means a lot to them as well. Ashman then, he was initially identified as Sebastian because they were saying number 18 rather than number 16, and it would have been really weird for Sebastian to get a yellow card because he hadn't even come on to the field at that stage. But Ashman, he goes to the bin, and it's a great chance for Ireland now to score, against 14, and Kelleher then taps the penalty in the shadow of the post. We have a nice bit of disguise, and Porter crashes over to score. Crowley converts this one for 17-6, and you're feeling at this stage now Ireland may have done enough to kind of win the game, and now it's about can they add some extra scores on. But despite having chances to do it, they really couldn't. Scotland then have Ferguson actually had to throw into at least one line out, in a kind of an echo of last year where Josh van der Fleer had to do that for Ireland when we didn't have a recognised hooker on the field, and Ferguson overthrows this one, puts Ireland back on the attack. Scotland, for a little while, a few minutes, it felt like they looked very ragged, and again it looked like maybe they were going to start conceding some points. They were conceding penalties and allowing Ireland to get into position. Maybe a little bit unlucky with Cummings getting pinged for playing the man in the air in the line out, and allowed Ireland to go to the corner. But again, that Scottish defence was so good. Ireland, they go to the corner, they secure the ball, they go to their maul. The maul gets an initial really good shove on, but then Scotland had dealt with Ireland's maul so well all game, but they do it again here. They just diffuse that forward momentum, even as the backs were coming in. Ireland were basically, half of them ended up facing the wrong way and driving the wrong way as well, and just really good defence from Scotland to stop that. And we then have a TMO review for a tackle from Harry Bourne on Finn Russell. Looks like possible red. It's a yellow card at this stage, goes to the bunker. It was head on head, but we've heard them being given as what's known as an absorbing tackle, or the referee might say that not a high degree of danger, but you've also seen it's kind of on that borderline of possible red as well, because he's very upright in the tackle and it is head on head, but either way he's off for the last 5 minutes of the game. Then Hugh Jones gives Scotland some hope for that triple crown. First of all, holds off Henshaw, then makes his way between Doris and Van der Fleer to go under the post and score. Russell makes it 17-13, and it's game on for those last 2 minutes of the game. But then Ireland, they put on some really good pressure in defence, force a knock on. We hear that Burns' yellow card is going to stay yellow. Probably a correct decision, but again, I wouldn't have complained if it was a red, just because of how upright he was in the tackle. Ireland then, they run down the clock, get off the field, and it's 17-13 full time. Ireland, Six Nations champion. My heart can relax at that stage for a minute, and then really enjoyed the presentation and stuff, and just seeing how emotional the guys were together as well. At this point then, we are going to have a quick look at the stats from the game, so let me pull those up, and hopefully they are going to be up to date. But yeah, we got them here. So first thing is possession, 58% to 42%. So Ireland, having a lot of the ball, and then territory even more, 65 to 35. So Scotland finding it difficult to get themselves in position, and part of that, I think, today was, Scotland are a really good kicking team, but I felt that Ireland dealt with their kicking pretty well and didn't allow them to use that, to profit from that kicking strategy. There were some decent takes in the air from like Van der Merwe, I think Kyle Rowe when he come on as well, and a few others too. But, nothing really came of that in terms of momentum for Scotland or even field position, because Ireland were dealing with it after that as well. But, Scotland defensively were very good, and we're going to see that a bit later. But try scored then 2-1 for Ireland. So Ireland not really setting the world alight with their attack in the last two games, but still getting over for the tries that mattered. And then next carries then 152 to 93 in favour of Ireland. Meters carried 861 to 587. Meters gained, Ireland 487 to Scotland's 360. And those meters gained, not as maybe as many as we see Ireland putting up in the first kind of 3 rounds, and not really much on the back of that either in terms of generating super quick ball and momentum as well. Although I did feel that Gibson Park had a great game today in terms of just moving that ball a lot quicker than we ended up doing it against England when he had to move on to the wing. Line breaks then 4 each, and no real I guess other than the try from Hugh Jones, no real line breaks that led to actual tries in the end, but some very dangerous ones there and some decent defence from both teams when they happened. Defenders beaten then 20 for Ireland, 25 for Scotland. Total passes 215 to 131. An offload 6 for Ireland, 4 for Scotland. Handling errors then 16 for Ireland, 20 for Scotland. So even though Scotland didn't have that much of the ball, they were making errors and just making it harder for themselves to build momentum. And Ireland were in exactly the same position last week against England. Turnovers conceded then 18 for Ireland, which is a big number that they'd want to reduce. 13 for Scotland. Next thing then, we have kicking. So kicks in play, 29 for Ireland and 30 for Scotland. Kicking meters 690 to 922, but again, crucially, even though Scotland made what is it, 232 meters more in terms of their kicking, it didn't turn into actual sustained possession or territory for them, and that's, I think, where kind of there was a big difference here. Onto defence then, tackles made 118 for Ireland, double that from Scotland, a little bit more, 239 for them, which is a massive number of tackles they have to make in the game. Tackles missed then 25 to 20. Ireland at 83%, which is low even for them. Like you expect Ireland to be around kind of 85 to 87 in terms of their first up tackles, and then we talked about before that they have a lot of their system actually relies on kind of the scramble or what happens after that first missed tackle. So normally we don't see them up in the 90s. Scotland at 92%, excellent. and that's why Ireland find it very hard, I think, to break them down today. Was they just weren't missing as many tackles as Ireland would have hoped. On to let me find the next one here. So onto discipline then. So penalties, Ireland with just 4 is an excellent return for them. 13 penalties for Scotland, too many, but Ireland weren't kind of in the mood for kicking at goal either. There felt at times there were chances for Ireland to maybe just stretch out that lead, but I think that it was the right thing to do, to keep going for the try, even though they only got a couple in the end. But I think the fact that they were able to sustain that pressure in Scotland's 22, in Scotland's half, and not allow Scotland to restart where they'd only conceded 3 points, was actually a smart move. Just keeping that pressure on and making Scotland make all of those tackles as well, in the end, I think was part of why they were able to get over for the 2 that they did. Free kicks then, 1 each, and we had then 1 yellow card each for the teams as well. At the breakdown, Rooks won 125-79. Rooks lost 3-2, and then Rook speed 0 to 3 seconds. Ireland 53% and Scotland 59%. And we've seen that in the last couple of games where Ireland not quite getting the super quick ball that we saw in the first 3 rounds, and the other opposition actually getting slightly faster ball than them. But that's something that I think Ireland now, championship is done. There's going to be a bit of a reset, I think, in terms of how they approach their breakdowns, and looking at especially what England did against them, but also what the Scotland defence did against them too. On to set piece then. Scrums won 7 each, none lost on their own feed, but certainly Ireland the more threatening in terms of forcing penalties, etc., on their own field. Lineouts won then 13-6. Lineouts lost 2 each. No steals for either team. And so the set piece again, I felt that scrum felt better for Ireland. The stats would say that the lineout probably went better for Ireland too, just by sheer numbers really. But it did kind of feel, at least, that even when Ireland were winning their own ball, it wasn't clean ball, and that's a big part of Ireland's attack as well there. So I think Scotland really did well in that one to disrupt. And okay, so let's talk about the teams overall. Scotland, again, they didn't offer that much in attack today, but boy, they defended really well. No Triple Crown for them, and it's going to be kind of another downer really for them, ending the championship with 3 losses. They'll feel like they could have or they should have should have beaten France, could have beaten Italy, and with a little bit more luck today maybe could have beaten Ireland as well. But those are the fine margins, and Scotland, they've got to find a way of putting themselves on the right side of that, because that's part of why Ireland have been so successful, is that in a lot of the tight games they're able to put themselves just that right side of on the scoreboard to be able to win those tight ones that prove crucial overall. Obviously couldn't do it last week against England, but they did it enough over the championship to deliver that trophy. So Scotland, I think that's something where they've got to find a way to do that. And I honestly don't think it's it's not personnel. I don't think it's coaching either, in terms that it's just one of those things where when players are used to winning, it just becomes a habit, and they do, like, when the pressure comes on, they do the right things more often than not, and then that delivers that little bit of extra margin that you need to win those tight games. So I think that's what Scotland have to do. But to actually get there in the first place, sometimes it needs a bit of luck. Sometimes maybe you have to look at maybe bringing somebody in terms of things like the mental side of the game and that kind of thing, that kind of preparation. Could they bring somebody in to maybe boost that for the players? Or I remember who was it, Brian Habana, talking about how the Springboks brought in a specialist for peripheral vision and being able to helping them to improve that, and he said that helped him improve his game immensely. So it's little things like that, being able to just make that difference. And even if it's not a huge difference in terms of the in terms of if you implement that the player's performance isn't going to be amazingly better, but the fact that the player feels like it's beneficial to them can be the kind of thing that puts them in the right frame of mind for it. But one thing for Scotland, they put up a hell of a fight today, and they did a lot better against Ireland than they have in recent meetings as well. In terms of Ireland then, they've wrapped up the championship, so got to be delighted with that. Didn't play great, but they found a way to win, unlike last week. But again, it's one of those, I think, if it feels like that, if Ireland had scraped over the line last week, then they might have then had that a little bit down this week and been caught out by Scotland rather than by England. It doesn't feel like over those two games that Ireland's performances in the two games merited two wins, honestly. And unless they were vastly better over the two games, I don't think you could say that they deserved to have a Grand Slam. So I think it's fair, but I think over the balance of the 5 rounds, definitely deserve to be champions. Peter O'Mahony gets to lift the trophy on possibly his last appearance. I didn't like the way the Virgin Media, or whatever they're called, interviewer was kind of straight away just went straight into, Peter, wherever he said, Peter, this is your last occasion, or wherever, your last appearance, or asking him basically, is he going to retire? I thought it was a little bit classless. I know that from the point of view of a TV station, you want to get that exclusive of him confirming it live on your broadcast or wherever, but still I just don't like that kind of thing. But if it is his last appearance, the guy has been just amazing for Ireland, and I'm so glad that he got to finish it off by lifting the trophy as the captain. I think he's done really well as captain as well this year, and just been immense for Ireland over the years. So that's the end of this one. After, I guess, the France-England game, I'm going to be able to properly celebrate Ireland win, although I'm feeling like my celebration is probably going to be record a video for England-France, get that all done and uploaded, have a nice hot cup of tea and go to bed, because again, my throat doesn't feel the best. But we got through this one, hopefully get through the rest, and see you on that one.